Hello Troop, in today's video we're going to go over everything you need to know to get used to the brand new version of Trash, rebranded as just Trash. So if, like me, you'd been using Trash 2 for something around the era of a decade, this is going to be considerably different. Now, I've already seen feedback that it's not as good as the previous version, Trash 2, which is ironic considering one of the very first things we can do is go into our selection menu at the top where we have a whole stack of presets, and we actually in fact have Trash and Convolve Legacy, which are a bunch of the default presets from Trash 2. So it can still do everything it used to be able to do. It just works and is laid out in a pretty different way. So let's go over the GUI, and we've already looked at the top here where we've got our preset selector. Right next to it we have this little guy. This basically represents a randomize feature, and you'll see this located in a couple of other areas too, like here and here. And if we bash this one just here, it takes a random preset from all of the presets available. As you can see, selects a random preset from the list which we've already looked at right here. If we want to just flick through our presets, we've got our usual left and right arrows to do so, or we can click in and we've got a folder option, much like we're used to with any Izotope plugin. If we want drums, we go into drums, and then we've got the different types, and we've got our back arrow to navigate around. Bypass does exactly what it says in the tin. It bypasses the plugin, the same as switching it off right up here would do. And a nice quick easy access control here is an overall mix for the overall plugin itself, so the global wet dry. So if we've got this on a bus, for example, we want on 100% saturation, we just leave it on 100. If we're putting it on a channel and we maybe want to blend it together, we've got the option. So here is the original bass, and then we can slowly bring it in. To include our new tone and find the balance we're seeking for by maybe having a blend of the two like that. Much like you would parallel compression or NY style compression. In this case, it's parallel saturation. Right below here is our band split and mixing split. You probably would have noticed this is starting to appear in things like Ozone, and it's crossing over now into the other areas of the Izotope plugins, like we've seen it in Neutron. Well, now it's here in Trash as well. Our handles here are automatic, allowing us to split the frequency band. So we can split it into 3 bands here, and we can do a gain control per band. If we want to isolate a band we're working on, we can solo it out. Now the middle section here is where all of the magic happens. Where in Trash 2 before we used to jump through multiple windows, everything is now kind of co-signed and crammed into this space here, but we've got some nice little advances that allow us to dial in things really quickly, and once you understand what's going on, it's actually super simple. So first up, we've got the Trash module, our on-off icon. And you see everything will disable when we do in fact switch it off, like so. Our drive, so how much we're going to drive it into the saturation. Our tilt, which is a tilt EQ. Effectively, we've got our frequency here, and we can either push it up or push the lows down based around the frequency here. And then we've got a mix blend for just Trash itself here, just the distortion algorithm. And you can see how the mix blend is represented on here for us as well. You'll notice as well, I've got these kind of weird icons, this red one and this blue one. That's linked to here, and this is a modulation icon. If we tap it, if we click and hold it, it works as a scroll wheel. So we've got 100% plus or 100% minus. As you can see, it gives us the configuration of what it's going to do in that automation. And it animates. Today's video is sponsored by DistroKid. They let me get my music out to all of the major distributors, and they do that at a price an independent artist can easily afford. If you're ready to get your music or beats out there and want to release an unlimited amount of music each year, check the link in the description below for a discount off of your first year of unlimited distribution with DistroKid. What about the directionality? Well, we're working on an XY here, so we've got 4 different distortion algorithms, one in each corner here, and we can see them. We can Much like our preset menu, we can click on them and select the type of distortion we want, and any one can go in any of the four. When one is selected, a little icon up here just lets you know you're going into this part of the XY. We can mix them all up and just shuffle those around using our dice randomizer like we had before. The red circle here represents where we're starting, and the blue circle represents where we're automating to. However, that can be disabled by just switching this on or off. Once it's on, we can actually choose a location and it will show us with a representation of what we're doing to the overall sound. So I can have it so in fact it pulled down like so. Next, all of our convolver controls are in the same controllers are in the same kind of layouts. We've got the XY and our 4 different controllers and our dice to randomize it up. And our red circle will place us in those different parts of the XY with a representation of the blend between those different convolver sounds. And a nice little detail at the bottom is the overall time of them. So we're going between this 20, 30 milliseconds, for example, in their overall length, which could be very important in terms of how the sound responds in use. So what's this like in context? Oh, yeah. We can very much dial in our own sound overall. Let's jump them up. It's all well and good that we want to maybe blend our sound and find just the right tone we're after, but if we want to actually move this around in space, we can do that as well. It's linkable via automation in the DAW, but doesn't have an envelope link within Trash itself. So for example here, if I were to make a nice new track here for our bass automation, and we just switch that over to Latch and we can record ourselves in. We can do that in real time now. We've got the amount of mix that this convolve might want to have separately as well. And with the width and stereos options, we can really spread that out. You get this crazy vibe. Perhaps you're worried about causing things like phasing issues with the low end. Well, remember, we're in multiband, so I can switch here to my other option where convolve is disabled, or I can have convolve enabled, mix set to 0, width set to 0, to create a very central sound instead. We've got one envelope control that does everything. So the envelope here, we've got our modulation and mount, our attack and release. When we set up our automations here in Trash or here for the filter, they're controlled via this envelope here. And we can see this as we push up the envelope. It causes a lot more trajectory and a lot more modulation to happen. So we dial it back. Our attack obviously makes that happen a lot slower over time. And our release just gives it longer to come back. Now our filter's fully engaged. When we disengage it, the icon for whatever reason doesn't change like it does for Trash and Convolve, but everything is greyed out. We switch it back on, everything's back. To show that it is being modulated, again, we've got our little plus icon with a wheel here, and it is represented quite nicely before we even see what's going on. So we can dial it right in and see what's happening with it. Our frequency is our starting frequency for the filter. Scream is resonance, although resonance is not displayed in the filter for whatever reason. But we do get to see a representation of it up here in our frequency spectrum. And then we've got heat, which is basically another saturation in the filter algorithm. last but not least, we've got our in and our out gains with auto gain on if we so desire, and a limiter. So no matter how hard we decide to crush the entire sound, it is not going to cause clipping or issues for us in that regard. And auto gain allows for a nice easy A/B when bypassing. Well, I've personally found that you're generally destroying a sound so much that auto gain kind of becomes redundant into you shaping what you want to shape it. But if you're doing some very subtle saturation, auto gain could be very useful for you. I quite like the sound that I've created here. How would I save it as my own preset? I can click up here in our presets menu. We can do plus and new. And here it will take us to trash in the presets folder. We go new preset. Let's call that unders trashed bass. And we save it, and we now have it as unders trashed bass, and it will show up under user presets for us. And that is everything you need to know to get started with a brand new version of Trash from Izotope. I hope the video has been helpful, and I look forward to seeing you in future tutorials. Take care.